Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. Well, welcome back. You'd be like, Joe, why are you eating and drinking while you're on the show? Well, some of us have to work. And then I got to work, and then I got to get off the work stuff and do this. And I've been really studying this stuff with Eric Coomer. And, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the show is going to be about today. It's going to be great. We're going to go deep dive into the fight for America's soul. What does that mean? So we're going to have Pedro Israel Orta. He's a decorated CIA veteran. I've been hammering on CIA for, man, I'm not going to stop. I remember talking about USAID way back in the day. And one of the guys I met in Nairobi, Kenya, we were sitting at the bar. He was a CIA guy. And we started talking. So I started asking questions. Obviously, he doesn't say that he's CIA. But the CIA does recruit sociopaths. I'm not saying that this guy is, because he's a patriot and he's a Christian minister. But they like sociopaths because they can get them to do things that, frankly, the human spirit wouldn't want you to do. And we started asking questions, and I was like, yeah, that's not true. And he goes, what? Because we were talking about USAID putting, food into certain areas and I go, that's not true. USAID, they basically black market most of the stuff, and it's just a CIA stronghold. And we started talking about other countries that I'd been to and things that I'd seen. And he goes, you see dead bodies. And I'm like, I don't understand. He goes, you see things before anyone else can see them. Like, you can look at something and say, and I was like, yeah, maybe. I found out later he was CIA, and which checks, because he was really, really sharp, young guy, and was a little surprised at just how open and honest I was about what I saw right in front of me. So we're going to talk about the story of Pedro, and we're going to go into a deep dive on him specifically. So I first want to say that it is Tommy's birthday, and Tommy is on Untamed. He has a great show. He has a very, very, very good show, and he does a lot of work for us. I love that guy. And he got canceled a long time ago. Was doing a really good show. Was doing really well on YouTube, and they just took it away from him. And so let's just say happy birthday really quick to Tommy. I'm going to send it to him like, happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday, dear Tommy. That's all you get. You don't get anything more than that. That's it. So let me just tell you what else I've been working on. Eric Coomer. Let me just tell you, I have this article that I was going to launch, and I wrote it from a perspective that was like, if I was on the outside, like if I wasn't who I was and I didn't know what I knew, would Eric Coomer be my guy? Like, would he be, could he have the capability of going through this? Now, I proved this before, but loosely. And now I've got access to different things. So before I had access to people, and I could sit down and bounce things off people and say, okay, here's what I see. Here's the model for it. Here's how they stole the election in 2020. But I got further into it. And the further I got into it, I was able to feed it more information and start creating graphs on his decay model that he used, and whether or not that was present, if you flip the formula, if that was present in the elections of today. And then could I build a line from 2005 when he, was laying on the floor dry heaving by his own words, his words, not mine. And he got a cold call that said, hey, we need you to come become the chief engineer, chief architect of a voting system in Colorado, or excuse me, in 17 states and the District of Columbia. And oh, by the way, we're owned by we're owned by a Venezuelan company. But hey, come on over. So I was able to draw that line and then look at his travel schedules that I could verify based on getting access to information that I've had over the years, and then things that Eric Coomer said specifically. So anyway, the bottom line is that there's a thing called the R squared, right? So the regression value of information when you plug it in. The more information you give it, the more that value should either go up or down. And it's basically a barometer of fact. Like, this is a fact. What has, the R value is 0.999, or if it's 0.998, or if it's and I was talking to a couple of people, one this morning that understands financial models, and if you get over, he said, if you get over a 0.85, that's highly probable. You get over a 0.9, it's hard to argue. It's almost impossible to argue. You get over 0.95, you got a lot of explaining to do. Now, the IRS uses this formula and uses this model methodology in order to catch people who are stealing money from the government. Forensic auditors, if you go to they'll use this same formula to figure out whether or not there's embezzlement or things happening inside of different company audits and things of that sort. It's used to catch a lot of people, right? Well, I used it to figure out, was Eric Coomer who Eric Coomer says he's not? And the answer is yes. And so, I got a paper that I'm going to launch today. You'll see the paper. I'm going to spend more time with our guest. I'm going to go through who he is right now, because I really want to get the timing of that. But I'm going to just start launching stuff out to you, and I'm not going to stop talking about it. Eric Coomer has sued everybody, and everybody has basically caved, except for Mike. He didn't cave, but the judge did everything to keep the evidence out. And I don't believe that they did a good job of proving that Eric Coomer is actually who Eric Coomer says he's not. Sorry, but if you have bodies that show up, like I said yesterday, you have bodies that show up, and the only guy that flies in and flies out in all 5,000 cases is this one dude. That's your dude. And so they say that you don't have the gun. Well, that's because it's a criminal conspiracy. And when you can't, in a criminal conspiracy, if you don't get access to the files and you do things like overwrite log files and you hide information like the actual ballots, and you make it impossible for the public to get to the bottom of it, all you can rely on is mathematics. You want to know why? Because it proves it. And then when people in positions of power and authority keep you away from it because they got their little pound of silver, then you know that there is a criminal enterprise that is created. And it's not just against Trump. It is a criminal enterprise against the American people, and they have stolen your voice in so many different ways. It's time to quit pretending. And I said before, my lawyer's like, hey, we're going to bring all this up into trial. We'll bring it up into trial. We're going to crush him. And then I was like, you know what? What am I waiting for? You got people falling off saying, yeah, let me just settle. You had Salem do it. I don't have it. You had Clay Clark say, oh, yeah, there's no proof of it. And I'm going, okay. No. You don't get to slander me. And you know what? At the end of the day, I personally hope that the guy is tried for treason and that he sings like a bird. But then when I found out about the people in Venezuela and the whistleblowers, it just is too much to put off. So anyway, that's how I'll start. But I can see our guest is here. So let me actually talk to you about this American patriot. I did a little research before we had him on. And we've been talking about the CIA, so I am going to give him a hard time about the CIA because I think that group was responsible for stealing the voice of the American people. But Pedro is born and raised in Miami to a Cuban exiled parents. His life has been shaped by a fierce commitment to freedom, faith, and service. Going to Cuba was the most fun I've ever had, though. It's like going back in time. With nearly 2 decades, 2 decades in the CIA and military service in Iraq and Afghanistan, he's seen the best and worst of what goes on behind the scenes of U.S. national security. He's a courageous whistleblower. He also paid a heavy price for standing up to corruption. He came long before us, and lived to tell the story in a powerful book, The Broken Whistle. He's a man of deep faith, a seasoned evangelist, and a passionate voice for integrity in both government and the church. Hopefully, he doesn't believe we should separate the two. From film production to frontline ministry, he continues to live out his calling with boldness. And so it's great to have him back on, or have him on. And this is why we fight for why truth still matters. So with that stuff said, Pedro, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Pleasure. Thank you for your kind words.
2 decades in the CIA. Can I just jump right into it?
Yes, it was 18 and a half years. Yes, sir.
Whew. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of the CIA. It's I believe that, I've seen too much, both sides, 6.5 years in the Middle East and Africa, learned Arabic, was in countries, saw the CIA do really bad things. And then got back here and I look at the elections, and for a large part, I spent a decade away from it, just running my businesses, not having to get involved in geopolitical anything. And then here I am, fighting again. And I feel like now I put the pieces together, and the thing that keeps coming to the surface is the CIA.
Criminals in action, Christian in actions, could be both, could be corruption in action. There's many different ways to skin this cat, as they say.
So during your time in the CIA, was it difficult being a Christian behind those lines? I mean, because there's a lot of things that happen that you got to make a decision. Like, is this the hill to die on? You can't last 18 years in an organization like that without having to grit your teeth a little bit.
I noticed something through the years. When I first started, there were a lot of seasoned veterans who were hired in the 70s and the 80s. And most of those hires were either prior military, prior law enforcement, had business experience, had life experiences. So they came in very seasoned as far as, being true professionals, having, in some cases, some of them had a strong moral compass as far as what is right, what is wrong. Through the years, particularly after 9/11, what happened is money got poured in, and they started just hiring people with very little life experiences. And, I saw a huge contrast. For example, I went in July of 2000. By July of 2004, I was already in Iraq. I spent 2 years working in Iraq with a lot of these seasoned veterans. I had an amazing set of leaders who knew how to manipulate in good ways the system to make things work. And what I mean by that is they were throwing people out in Iraq just like throwing darts on a board as far as problem solving. These leaders would move around the people and put them in the best position possible to maximize their capabilities. And fast forward 10 years later, I find myself in Afghanistan. And now it's like, my goodness, what have I walked in here? I'm walking into a situation where all these prior seasoned veterans are gone. Now we have new leaders who have very little experience, and it's all about me, about, how can I promote myself? I'm not talking about me, myself, but I'm talking about these leaders. Yeah. They're looking out for their careers first instead of U.S. national security. And in this mess, literally, I'm working in a base that was basically just a giant social club. We were not there to fight a war. We were there to basically have the chief of base do her year in a war zone so she can collect the benefits of a better retirement plan. And in this process, create a hostile work environment for our subordinates. I'm a deputy chief of base. I'm not supposed to allow this to happen. I'm supposed to speak up, which I did, and that would eventually get me into trouble. But more than that, this lady's going out of her way to entertain guests, take people out to yoga classes, have cookouts. We're going out for food and for yoga classes when we're in increased risk of indirect fire attacks. So quite a contrast here. So what happens here is, you're right. If you don't have a moral compass and you don't have a good set of Christian beliefs, right is right, wrong is wrong, you're going to clash with the system. And whereas I was not clashing with the system when I was in Iraq in 2004, 2006, Now I find myself clashing with the system in 2014, 2015, because the culture had changed. Essentially, DEI was in it not it actually wasn't it's in infancy. People think the DEI became big issue under Biden. The reality
It
is
didn't. It
it
was there for
was
20
a big
years.
issue under Obama.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, I saw the effects of DEI. So yes, it became troublesome for me as a Christian, or for that matter, someone who had a strong moral compass as far as what is right, what is wrong, to be able to work in this environment. And what you find is that a lot of people end up compromising their values and keeping their mouth shut, because if they don't, they will basically either have to quit or be chased out.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. By the way, did they keep your name, or did you have to go by Bob Smith?
As far as name, when I worked at the CIA, eventually I was undercover. And that
Most
presented
are.
a lot.
Yes.
Well, if you start doing operational work, yes, exactly, that is correct. To protect
you Bob?
operational work, you go undercover.
Were you Bob or like John Jones? It's a real thing. I mean, everybody says it's not a real thing. It's a real thing.
Well, on that note, when I had to, I was looking for the easy way to resolve the problems that they created. We had a molehill and they turned it into a mountain. And in this process, they said, you got to use EEO, you got to use the IG, you got to go through these grievance processes. So they basically decided to make fun of me and give me an alias by the name of James Pars, as making fun of a performance appraisal. Pars is performance appraisal in the CIA. So they were making fun that I had brought up the issue that they were weaponizing the performance appraisal process against me by giving me a poor review that basically killed my career.
I'd have put nothing past them, and you got to have a sense of humor about it. Just because, if you didn't have a sense of humor about it, you'd want to tear people's heads off, right? So,
well, I flipped it around against them. It's like, okay, you want to make fun of me with James Pars? Well, here's this lawsuit filed against you using the James Pars name, and actually, it was the attorney's idea to file the lawsuit, the Administrative Procedure Act, to try to compel them to do their job. I mean,
what year was that? What year was that?
In 2015, when I ran into this reprisal situation, and they have no interest in resolving anything. A lot of these issues of whistleblower reprisal, all it takes is for two individuals to sit down, talk, and work things out and get things fixed. They don't. They just want to cover it up. So they gave me the name James Pars in 2015. And then in 2016 is when a lawsuit was filed. And that lawsuit basically was just trying to compel them to do a whistleblower reprisal investigation that, by law, when I turned in the complaint in April of 2015, by law, within 2 weeks, they were supposed to tell me whether they were going to open an investigation or not, if there was cause to believe that there were reprisals. So there were significant, there was an evidence trail. They refused to do so. And, it wasn't until October of 2015 that they claimed that they were going to open an investigation. Yet for all of 2016, they wouldn't give us a response. So in December of 2016, a lawsuit was filed.
Okay. So December 2016, President Trump's coming into office. Did that make things easier, or did you feel like you were going in a better direction, and that you would get some you would get some relief, or did it get worse from there?
Well, good question. And what I found out was that the CIA and Brennan's personnel tried to delay receiving the lawsuit being served. The lawsuit was literally served to Brennan like 3 days before he left, 17 January of 2017. So what happens here is Mike Pompeo, the new director, inherited this problem. And what I found out was that Pompeo was not in charge of the CIA. What I found out was that it was basically still Brennan's personnel working for Pompeo, telling Pompeo what to do. And more specifically,
how did you come to that conclusion?
well,
I mean, that checks, but how did you come to that conclusion?
in June of 2017, when I'm still being given a runaround by the CIA Inspector General and others, I finally reached out to Mike Pompeo through his chief operating officer, Brian Bullatow. And, it's like, let's sit down and resolve these issues. Well, instead of doing anything, what they did is they allowed the attorneys and the inspector general to basically draft up a response to my question, and they copied it and pasted it and put it into an email and sent it to me. It was a copy and paste email. You can see it. There's no doubt about it. And on top of that, as soon as I had reached out to them, they sent out an entire workforce note claiming that, reprisals will not be tolerated, harassment will not be tolerated. It's just the same boilerplate language that Brennan's personnel put out. So they put it out again. Essentially, Pompeo and Bullatow punted to the bureaucracy. Now, I also found out that Mike Pompeo kept Brennan's chief of staff as his chief of staff, because apparently they were colleagues at West Point. They were in they're classmates, essentially. But more importantly, look who was picked to be Pompeo's number two, Gina Haspel. People don't realize that Gina Haspel was a protege of John Brennan, groomed by John Brennan into leadership positions, and handpicked by John Brennan for leadership positions. There's a press report out there that had her as the chief of station in London during the Steele dossier timeframe. And if you become COS London, you are basically doing so because the director of the CIA picked you for that job, because that is a serious and significant job for the CIA. They just don't pick anybody to go out there without the director having a say for it. So essentially what was going on here is, yes, Mike Pompeo was presidentially appointed by Donald Trump, but his staff was basically Brennan's staff, and the staff was managing upward. And at no time did Pompeo ever step in to try to fix any of these issues. And they would continue to escalate throughout 2017. And I reached out additional times to Brian Bullatow and Mike Pompeo, and they basically washed their hands like Pontius Pilate, not offering to help. They basically allowed the CIA Office of Security to come in and break their anti-harassment policy, threatened to take reprisals, and took more reprisals against me without stepping in to stop the reprisals and stop the harassment.
The story that you're telling is one that is heard so often, and it brings me back to this. It's not a conspiracy so much as it is a community, a fraternity that's been built that allows for these people to act the same way across the board and sweep things under the rug. So even if you do finally get to a place where you have justice, it takes so long to get it done that you find yourself that you probably heard 30 other stories. You probably heard 30 other stories like this up to this point of other people that they've done this to. I mean, you have the FBI whistleblowers, obviously they did it to them. The IRS whistleblowers did it to them. Anyone that came forward, they've done everything they can to soil their name. They tried to soil your name and take punches at you subtly and then probably not so subtly. And you wonder how they're able to get away with it in a system that is supposed to be designed to be just. But so how? So how is it the system is supposedly your friend until it's not, and then it acts with such impunity that there's no accountability?
It's a long answer, and I'll try to be as brief and as short as possible. There are a couple components here. The biggest component here is the lack of congressional oversight over the intelligence community. And if you look at the intelligence community oversight issues, historically, it has always been the Democrats trying to hold the intelligence community accountable. But as soon as the Russia hoax came in 2016, 2017, all of a sudden now the Democrats became apologists to cover up for the intelligence community. You will also notice that historically, none of the Republicans, and I mean none of them historically, you can go back to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010s, and even now into the 2020s, have tried to hold the intelligence community accountable. The only ones, and there are extreme anomalies, are Devin Nunes in 2017. And look what they did to him. They basically forced him out of the HPSI. Lately, Representative Crawford, who is the House Permanent Select Committee chair, has spoken up and been a vocal advocate of trying to correct some of these Russia hoaxes. But we must take note that he has been in that intelligence community since 2017. Where has he been since 2017 until now? So what my point is, Congress has been missing in action, and that empowers these agencies to abuse their powers, particularly in whistleblower reprisal matters, because now the second component is, yes, you have laws on the books, but these laws have no teeth, they're unenforceable, as I found out with the Administrative Procedure Act lawsuit. The judge basically agreed that, yeah, there's a problem here, and I understand you're trying to get your case resolved, but the law does not allow me to tell the CIA to do their investigation. On that note, I worked as an inspector general for the intelligence community on a team that looked at these reprisal protections and the implementation. Well, the reality is they didn't know what to implement. They didn't know the standards to use. They refused to use the standards, refused to use the timeframes. If you don't basically follow the timelines and the standards, you're never, ever going to substantiate a reprisal. So you have the IGs failing their due diligence of protecting whistleblowers. That's the other component. And the third one you might as well say is the lack of leadership from the leaders above these agencies. They never step in to help a whistleblower. They basically wash their hands like Pontius Pilate and dump it into the IG's hand. And then a whistleblower is left out on his own trying to fight this system. And in my case, because I was undercover, it really made things a lot harder for me because the CIA Office of General Counsel went out of its way to obstruct my ability to get a new attorney. And that had a significant impact in my case that led to basically the second wave of reprisals, and for that matter, never resolving my case.
Wait, why did you need a new attorney?
The first attorney I had was more of an employment type attorney. And this case was turning into a serious national security issue with more than just employment related matters. This was a serious issue with the implementation of the Presidential Policy Directive 19, which is what protects intelligence community whistleblowers. And this attorney was well connected at Capitol Hill. So he would have had the Capitol Hill connections to try to get some traction on this case. That's why I needed a new attorney. And the CIA knew that. So they forcefully fought me tooth and nail to stop me from getting this attorney. And the worst thing about this is they finally approved this attorney after I was fired. And when the attorney finally reaches out to them, they have the audacity to tell the attorney he was fired, so we have nothing to discuss.
What did they, I mean, so what did they ultimately fire you for?
Well, what happened here was the Office of Security investigated me as a threat to the workforce. The two investigators who I spoke to clearly told me, you are not a threat to the workforce. How can we help you to resolve this case? And at that point in time, I told them what I needed. I needed approval for a new attorney. I needed to find out what is the status of the IG investigation, because the IG claimed they had investigated, but they wouldn't give me any details. And there were timelines for me to file an appeal, because if I missed that time level of an appeal, I would have no right at all to have a second level appeal in that case. They were refusing to do those two things. So what happened here is the director of security sends in one of his deputies to talk to me in a private meeting with another security official. And they basically threatened me, hey, be happy you have a job. You've been too vocal about these issues. You need to shut up. Like telling me you're going to lose your job. At that point in time, they were also accusing me of potentially trying to be a threat as far as leaking classified information. But like I told these people, this is all basically administrative issues. There's nothing classified here. So they were threatening me as far as, being a threat of leaking. Add to that another dimension that they said I became hostile to the investigators in the meeting that I had with them, which is not true.
I mean, were you hostile to the idea that you were basically getting railroaded? I mean, you sound like you were. Sounds like you'd be upset. I'd be upset.
What I did is I gave him two examples of the things that I had to go through. Okay, I told him, look, I had an incident at that base where I'm trying to talk to the chief of base. I'm trying to get her attention. She was so mentally distressed. And as I told her, look, your subordinate, the guy you're treating as a son who is harassing the older officer, was caught stomping on the stairs, being defiant, not allowing this older officer to sleep because he had the night shift. And it's like, I stomped in front of her. Look, this is what he did. She wouldn't get it. So in that explanation, I tapped on the table to tell I stomped in front of her. Look. So explanation on the table.
Did we lose him? Did we lose him?
They flipped that and said I was being hostile to these investigators. And there's another incident here. And this one is just a complete crackpot. I mean, I told these two investigators, this agency with the equal employment opportunity, the human resources, the IG, with all the bureaucratic bullying and everything they've done, it's like if I would get up, take this chair and slam this chair on you. And then when you're on the ground, I start kicking you. I mean, that's literally, figuratively, what I've been through as a whistleblower in this agency. And, this is all nonsense. So they had the audacity to claim that I had picked up the chair and threatened to hit these two security officials. So they pulled a Flynn on me. Basically, that's what they did. They twisted the notes and wrote something I never said. So that's the tactic of tyrants that these idiots use in these agencies. So I stood up to that nonsense to the director of security. And I said to the director of security in a note back to him, if you're so serious about these issues, you and I need to meet in person and discuss these issues. So instead of the director of security agreeing to a meeting, he sends now what is known as the personnel security director, basically like the mafia enforcer. And this guy threatens me. I will revoke your clearance and I will fire you if you do not sign this letter of warning. And the letter of warning was basically
Did you record it? Did you record it?
Unfortunately, because I can't bring a phone in, I can't do anything electronically inside these agencies. They got you by the balls. You got no proof of anything unless I would take, the classified information, if it's classified, with me. Of course, they classified the letter of warning, because it's going to protect them. So I couldn't take the letter of warning that proves my point.
Wait, hold on a second. So they made your letter of warning a classified document? That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah. They overclassified to protect themselves. Yeah. Tactic of tyrants.
So you have a book that's out, and in your book you describe how the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act is weaponized for political purposes against you, not for you.
Okay, this gets into another aspect of my case and another dimension of the case. All right, I mean, how many times do
we have to talk about it? What amazes me is that we have so many people that come on and yet people still watch the news and they believe anything that the news says. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
In this process, what happened here is I filed a reprisal complaint under Presidential Policy Directive 19. Okay. But now, the lack of action by the IGs and the fact that the IGs were broken, and broken is an understatement because there were other whistleblowers who had reported IG issues to the IG authorities known as SIGI, for that matter, even to Congress. Some of them were able to get to Congress through their lawyers. I was forced to use the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act to try to get disclosures to Congress. That's known as the ICWPA. Well, I filed some ICWPAs in April, May of 2017. By law, the statute code law, the Inspector General has 2 weeks to review it and has to send it to the Director of National Intelligence. And the Director of National Intelligence has 1 week to make any comments, whether it is or it is not an urgent concern. And within 3 weeks, it's supposed to be sent to Congress by the director. I followed up after 3 weeks. No response. Crickets. Nada. Zip, zero, nada. So I follow up again. Nothing. At that point, with the employment attorney I had, we found a creative way because of the lawsuit to try to get some congressional interest. So now through the CIA Office of Congressional Affairs, I begin to make some contact to Congress, and some disclosures may have been passed, but the CIA Office of General Counsel, not General Counsel, the CIA Congressional Affairs told me, we don't pass all those documents to Congress. They refuse to pass certain documents to Congress, which that's remarkable. And what happens here is this continues to escalate. I go back to the Inspector General in the fall of 2017, again with disclosures, and nothing, no response. So I'm getting nowhere. Eventually, what happens here is it continues to escalate. When I reach out to the new Inspector General in summer of 2018, the new Inspector General, Michael Atkinson, responds back telling me, refile your Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act disclosures. Now, this is crazy because I was filing them from the inside, so it was all the classified materials. But now I was on the outside trying to file from the outside. So I had to retype everything and try to be as generic as possible. And in this process, I eventually put together some Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act disclosures that I pass them to the ICIG. Well, this time, the ICIG responds to me immediately, and they say, you've been fired. You have no right to file these disclosures. Take a hike. That was in early 2019. Fast forward to September 2019. The same process all of a sudden is now being used to go after Trump with a secondhand hearsay complaint. The form I got required firsthand information. You couldn't go with hearsay information. You had to have firsthand credible information. And it's very clear that it has to be about intelligence activities under the authorities and funding of the DNI. And when I saw what was going on with President Trump in September of 2019, I clearly saw what it was. It was the weaponization of this process to target Trump. They had changed the procedures. They had changed it from, firsthand to now allowing hearsay. And at the same time, it wasn't basically about DNI funded activities. So I went public through a Twitter thread, and I worked with Sean Davis from the Federalist and with Stephen McIntyre, who did some research, and he was able to find out that the form was changed. So Sean Davis put together an article based on the information that I publicly revealed, and that Stephen McIntyre was able to track down that it had been changed. So that became basically a blockbuster story that turned into a firestorm in Capitol Hill, with Congress going after the IG, demanding to know why did they change the processes in this particular instance. So it very convoluted, a lot of details to this.
Okay, so you had a whole text thread that you did, or a X thread, Twitter thread in 2019, September 23rd, 2019. Do we have that? And it kind of went crazy. I mean, they were like, what is going on here? So tell me.
Thread. Yeah, that thread went viral. I mean, after 2021, what happened? More than 2/3 of all the likes and the repost disappeared. But that thread just went viral. I had reporters reaching out to me. It was constantly on the news, and it created basically an open door for President Trump to challenge the IG in how they weaponized this process to go against him. And consequently, it was used as part of his defense because it had no validity. I mean, this was not an intelligence community disclosure. So this so-called whistleblower was not a whistleblower. Unfortunately, because of the hatred for Trump, the left grasped onto it and anointed this whistleblower as if he's the holy grail of all whistleblowers. It's believed to be Eric Ciaramella. But eventually what would happen here is, because of my disclosure that they had weaponized this process, new whistleblowers came forward, and this is believed to be the Vindman brothers, the Alexander and Eugene Vindman.
Yeah. That ran for office. All right.
Exactly.
So it is a fraternity of just shit people. I mean, that's what we're talking about. An entire government filled with people who have no business maturity, no intelligence. I mean, it feels like Con Inc. It feels like the Bannon and the Julie Kellys and the just these crappy people on the outside that were on the inside, kind of all working together to create massive problems. You have a movie. I do want to get to this part because I think it's important. You have a movie that's coming out. It's a documentary that's coming out, correct?
The documentary Deep State Gangsters is out, and it's available, and it features 3 other whistleblowers. It features John Kiriakou, Garrett O'Boyle, and Nate Kane.
Yeah, so I know Garrett, and he's probably one of the most trustworthy, just amazing men I've ever met. So with that said, we have the trailer. Can we play the trailer?
Absolutely.
The trailer? We're ready to go. We can play the trailer? Yeah, you do. It's on the page. Literally, it's on the page.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are killing me. Can we have, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're what's that? Say that again. They're trying to talk in my ear. I don't know if you can hear me.
There's a link on my webpage for the documentary that has a Google Drive.
Yeah, I mean, if I got to it, I know it's there, right? So I just I'm trying to
they can quickly download
navigate. Yeah. If you go to look, it's inside of the Signal. It says book and movie. You'll have the book first, then the movie second. There's a thing that says Pedro. You see it? All right. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly go, and I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Goldco. You can go to untamedgold.com. I am very proud that they actually support our show. And I got a couple questions yesterday, so I do want to tell you, Joe, what happens when, one of the questions that came up is, what happens when gold goes down? What happens when your stock goes down? Stock goes down, gold goes down, gold's going to go up. You don't know why it's going to go up? Because I believe that the stock market's hit a ceiling. They've manipulated that like they've manipulated everything else. And when you start seeing the wealthy start putting money on the sidelines, you know things are about to get shaky. They're not going to lower the rates because they want to create instability, and they're doing it. So if you want to know what it looks like, it's really simple. Go to Zillow.com. Go check out how many pre-foreclosures there are. Right now, we're at a record high in nearly half the states that are out there, which means we're going to have some sort of correction on what the dollar's worth. Well, that's already happened before, and they pumped in trillions of dollars over the Biden administration's time. And frankly, over most of the left and the right's time over the last 25 years. So just go to untamedgold.com. You can actually call as well if you want, which is 844-960-GOLD. And just get the packet. Just get the packet. You get 10% off or 10% in addition on silver. But, gold goes up, silver goes up, gold goes down, silver goes down. Put your money in it. And over time, you're going to make a killing on this resource. So it's been doing it for 2,000 years. It's never taken anybody in the wrong direction. So untamedgold.com. UNTAMEDGOLD.com. Okay. Do we have this? Do we have the movie yet? All right. Let's play this. It's just 2 minutes. Check this out. This is the trailer.
Angry that I have to be here to testify about the weaponization of the FBI and DOJ.
Your problem is you think this is about justice, and it's not about justice. It's about mitigating damage.
There was a deep rot within the FBI.
They said that the FBI suspended me in order to financially devastate us and leave us stranded in a new city without any support.
What ultimately kind of was the final straw for me was I got poisoned twice.
The Justice Department and the FBI, they don't get promoted by not charging you. They don't get promoted by not ruining your life.
Look, everyone, we're getting more January 6th subjects. At this point, if the worst of the worst haven't been arrested, like, what are you doing?
With FBI agents being taken off child sex trafficking cases to SWAT people's houses.
I think we all know, James Tony, that you're a great storyteller because you made up the entire story about Crossfire Hurricane.
As far as the allegations of CIA hacking into Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth. We wouldn't do that.
They were hell-bent on destroying me.
It didn't take very long, maybe 4 months, before the FBI ended up raiding my home and began a couple of years worth of retaliatory harassment.
Several FBI whistleblowers, they call themselves the Suspendables.
It was as if my name was toxic waste.
A lot of them are having trouble making ends meet and taking care of their families. And that's one reason, of course, why the FBI and Department of Justice are punishing them. To set an example,
I would have to fight communist-like totalitarian tactics, particularly working for the Central Intelligence Agency, where I'm supposed to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. Instead, I was supposed to defend and protect the bureaucracy first and foremost.
if any of you are thinking of blowing the whistles, look at these boys. They can't feed their families anymore, so think twice and you better fall in line.
How many whistleblowers, Pedro? How many whistleblowers does it take to get justice?
In the history of national security whistleblowing, I only know of one whistleblower, actually two, who got justice. And both of these cases are an extreme anomaly because if it wasn't for Charles McCullough, who was the IG for the Office of Inspector General for the Intelligence Community, both of these would not have gotten justice. One was a personal friend of his, and the other one got justice because Chuck McCullough was a strong supporter of whistleblowers. Additionally, at that time, Daniel P. Meyer was working as the whistleblower ombudsman for the ICIG.
Yeah.
So just two whistleblowers out of dozens of national security whistleblowers. In some cases, some of these whistleblowers have cases out there for more than 10 years, 15 years. In my case, I'm going on 12 years, 11, 12 years. And, I've had the second wave of reprisals were never investigated. And the IGs had no interest in investigating. And based on what I know, I have no confidence in these IGs investigating.
Where do you see the government going? Do you see it, the degradation in the government, up till 2019, you see the degradation happening inside of government? I mean, when you got in, you thought you were doing a greater good, I assume. I assume you went into it with the idea that you were going to serve your country and do great things.
People go in with noble intentions, and what happens here is you become one of them corrupt to go up the ranks and become a senior executive, or you basically retire in place, keep your mouth shut until you can retire, or for that matter, you resign, move on, and go somewhere else. As far as, where do I see this going? This is a problem that got here by decades, and it's going to take decades to fix. And what I mean by that is we would need Trump, obviously, to complete his term and for another Republican to come in for, 2 consecutive terms, followed by another Republican with 2 consecutive terms. And it literally is going to take, 16 to 20 years to try to reshape these institutions if they try to basically maintain these institutions the way they are and try to basically change and shift personnel around. But you just don't change the culture of an organization overnight. So consequently, this is not going to get fixed under this Trump administration. There's just no way.
If it doesn't get fixed under the Trump administration, does it ever get fixed?
Well, what happens here is people don't realize this. If we don't elect another Republican after Trump's term is over, we could have a situation where now we have a Biden too on a retribution tour who is going to flip these agencies again around to target and weaponize it against Americans who basically are not in agreement with their political disposition. And we potentially could have a more serious situation that what we witnessed in 2017 to 2021 before Trump came in.
Okay, so let's just ask the question. Who comes after Trump? Who do you think takes the reins after President Trump? because what I see happening right now is largely kabuki theater. And I think I've had enough of both sides. Left or right, doesn't matter. They're all they're shit, right? They're just shit. You got Kardashian Patel in the FBI seat. I mean, that guy's he's shit. I could walk down the line. I could walk down the line of all of them. Dan Pongino, Mr. Paper Tiger himself. Nothing gets done, right? The DOJ kind of drags its feet. We have AUSAs across the country that are standing in the way of us getting to the bottom of corruption. One case being in Colorado, where they could arrest the governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state. They could go all the way down and wipe them all out. I'll wipe them all out. In one fell swoop, they would have nearly every Supreme Court justice in Colorado, about 7 or 8 different judges in Colorado, the governor, the secretary of state, and the attorney general, all in one indictment, be done. And they literally sat on it. And so I look at what's happening in our government, and I look at even Con Inc., like the Steve Bannons of the world, and the Kelly, Julie Kelly running, interference for the people that just got fired by the FBI. Pedro, I don't see any way out of this. I don't see, other than us just saying you're all evicted, get out. What are we doing here? Like, what are we truly fighting? Because it's ridiculous. We debate the ridiculous, and then we get into politics and the government, and you got to debate more ridiculous. And you got judges that run interference and cancel cases and stand up people like that are stealing the voice of people. And it's just one big corrupt group of people.
We have serious political problems, and these are not easily resolved. There's several components. Congress, I'll go back to them. I mean, look at what Jim Jordan did with the Weaponization Committee, issued the 17,000-page report, and it did nothing. It's just a nice big stack of paper, I mean, I guess you could have a nice paper party, I guess. Congress feckless, and that's one of the serious components that needs to be fixed. Republicans need to step up to the plate and use their oversight powers to rein in the abuses of power by the executive branch. If Republicans don't do that, we're never going to fix it, because a president can only do so much. Yes, he's the chief executive. He's the head of the executive branch. But the reality is, if you look at our Constitution, the power resides in Congress. That's one component. Another component that we have is the political appointees. A lot of these political appointees are basically posturing and promoting themselves for additional jobs post-Trump administration. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
They're like running for office. They're running for office.
I've got 2 there that I can name that are just absolutely just not. I mean, just last week or the week before, there was Kristi Noem on her horse. This is the first time I ride an Argentinian horse, riding down the forest. I mean, clearly she's got political aspirations. We need people who are going to be like Tulsi Gabbard, rather than shine on the cameras. Look at me. Look how pretty I am. Look at what I'm doing. Just stay quiet, do your job, and over-deliver and do what you need to do. It's amazing what Tulsi Gabbard has done to get some of these documents out that the CIA has tried to hold back for decades. And recently, even with the Russia hoax, they were still trying to hold back. So that's an issue.
So I know as a leader, I know as a CEO, right, that there were times in my life as running a business, it just happened to me. I mean, I just had a massive betrayal happen inside my company, massive, right? And the people that did it are acting like that they didn't do it, that they didn't betray me, right? And my patience is like 0 for betrayal, okay? But they come in, they tell you everything. Oh, I'm here for you. We do. Oh, yeah, we did. Right? While over here building and doing things to serve themselves. And then act like I'm stupid, like I can't see it. I don't know what's going on, right? And so in the government, you have that happening too. You have people, oh, yeah, how you doing? And so President Trump is surrounded by people that are like, oh, yeah. Oh, yes, let's do this. Oh, so, yes, Mr. President, right? And you got guys like myself, Kyle Seraphin, Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyles, as you know, Garrett, yourself, others that that are like, listen, just get to the bottom of it, peel the Band-Aid off, get rid of them, and get real people in here, right? And you have to do it. My issue is that the risk of doing that, the reason why they don't do that, which is why President Trump, is the devil he knew is better than the devil he doesn't know, right? So you have a lot of people that are in there that are jockeying for the next horse. But our country is defunct. And the people in it on both sides are trash. And you have people that have built an entire alternate media that then slanders people with impunity so that they are the only ones that can get to the next level are the people that they choose. So it's organized crime on top of organized crime. And President Trump sits there like Caesar. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to be the Brutus. Who's going to be the one to stab Trump? And it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
We need to be treating our current situation in this country like if we are in 1861 in the Civil War, because we literally are in the survival of the republic. The Democrats are very disciplined. They are, relentless. They tell you what
they're also a little retarded. So,
but they tell you what they're going to do. They unite and they go do it. Yeah. On the right, it's all about what I call political theater, grandstanding, and showboating. It's look at me, look how pretty I am, look how pretty I talk. I got a fiery speech. I'm calling things what they are. But when it's time to put some meat on the bones or put the tires on the road to get things done, they're nowhere to be seen. And that's a problem also within the influencers class. What I have found the hard way is a lot of these people who are connected to Trump on the influence realm are in it for basically viral clicks and monetizing their content. They pick and choose who they help, and they don't unite. For example, the whistleblowers, we CIA whistleblowers have had no help whatsoever at all from anyone in the mega camp, except for a few individuals like yourself, a few others out there. But, we've been basically left to fend for ourselves. And if you want to go back and look at the real problems of weaponization of government power, the film tells you one of the original cases that was a victim of Obama and Brennan is John Kiriakou. John Kiriakou, the Bush Department of Justice investigated him and declined to prosecute, saying he broke no law. There's nothing to indict. There's nothing to prosecute. In comes Brennan. Brennan hated Kiriakou. So Brennan told the Department of Justice and Eric Holder, I want you to open the investigation. And when they found nothing, Holder actually had the audacity to tell Brennan, we found nothing. We can't prosecute this guy. Brennan said, I don't care. Charge him with something. So they literally cooked up false charges against John Kiriakou, forced him to mount this very expensive, case that cost him over $1 million that he's still paying. And, ultimately he pled guilty to a minor crime. And it was a way to just get done with this thing because it was going to just drain him and potentially worse than bankrupt him, potentially get him into millions of dollars of debt. So that's how they do this, but Kiriakou is not Trump, who's got billions of dollars to mount a defense. So, Kiriakou is left, as a convicted criminal, and yet he can't find no support from anyone to ask for a pardon for him with Trump.
It doesn't make any sense. And there are tons of people, even in the public, that are abused by all of this, that you'll never hear their name. They just go through the system and be abused. So the system is somebody told me a couple of days ago or a week ago, whenever, they said, Joe, this is the best system in the world. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This is not the best system in the world. This is the biggest facade you've ever seen. This is the biggest con job show. At least you know what you get when you're in Russia. You know where the bullet's going to come for you because they're going to tell you it's coming for you, right? In this country, you don't get it. They get to use the system in order to punish people with impunity. It's the most corrupt, evil, completely backwards system you're going to find, rotted to the core. Taking what is not theirs from people that they have no business taking from. That's my opinion. All right. So you got a book, you got a movie, the movie's out. Where can they buy the movie? Where can they see the movie? Is it just on your website?
The movie, my website, pedroisraelorta.com, has a link for the movie. And within that link for the movie, there are links to 2 places where you can stream the movie. You can stream the movie on Salem Now or Prime Video through Amazon. So those
All right.
2 are the place. Now, the book also has a short movie, The Broken Whistle, only available in Salem Now. The link is on the book site. And the book, the best place to get it is really going to be Amazon. Amazon has been superb for self-published authors, but you can also get it if you want to through Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. The book is available in hardback, paperback, ebook, and audiobook.
All right. Pedro, I'll give you a final word. How people can follow, how can they follow you?
Look at my X account at Pedro Israel Orta. That's one place. And most of my other social medias as well, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I have a channel called Voice of Righteousness Broadcast. And my website, pedroisraelorta.com.
All right. Pedro, thanks for coming on. God bless you. I'm not surprised that the CIA screwed you. They screw everybody, but I do have hope that sooner or later it'll come back, and God will get his vengeance. We just got to leave it to him.
Amen.
Right,
Justice will come. God bless you.
All right. Every day we hear a different story, but it's all the same story typically. It's all the government in one way, shape, or form doing some really bad things to other people around us. We act as if, I'm going to do some revelations right now, so you might want to hit the share button. You're not going to like what I have to say. It's going to, it's going to shock you a little bit. So let's just start here. You ready? We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, I'm going to talk to you about Con Inc. Yeah, that group that likes to stand together while doing really shitty things to a lot of people. The Julie Kellys of the world. I just found out that somebody went after Roger Stone. They're like, oh, we don't like Roger Stone. I'm like, how do you not like Roger Stone? But, we're gonna dive into some stuff. Somebody told me, Joe, you're not gonna have any friends left by the time it's done. Nah, see, none of these people were ever my friends. They were never my friends. You don't betray and screw people that are your friends. It's why I got people in my life that have been in my life for 20 years. Right? People stay in my life when they don't screw me, I don't screw them. And I said it to one of my friends this morning. I said, look, if you could call me at 1:00, I said it to a guy that I have not been friends with for very long, just a couple years. And he's like, yeah, I hate people. And I was like, that makes sense. I was like, well, I don't know how we became friends. I think I said, I don't know what I said to that, but he goes, here's what I want to tell you. You could call me at 1:00 or 2:00 and you'd need me there by 6:00. It doesn't matter what I'd have to do. I'd be there by 6. I'm 3 states away. I'd find a way to get there. Even if it cost me $20,000, I'd find a way to get there. You want to know why? Because I am my brother's keeper. All these porky pigs out there that walk around that said, oh, Joe, you can't, don't cut it off. No, we're going to go straight at it. And I don't care who comes for me. You don't think they've already come for me? 7,000 articles writing and slandering me while putting that piece of shit Eric Coomer on a pedestal? No. And here's the other thing I will say about this before we go to a commercial break and we come back, is that Eric Coomer committed a crime, several crimes, best I can tell. And as a result, he now is trying to take $90,000 from me. So he is actually using the law to come after me, to stop me from speaking up about the crimes he committed. I keep thinking about it more and more. And so there's going to be some stuff that happens over the next couple of weeks. The lawyers are going to, and I think that his lawyers might be guilty of it as well, because I know that they know about this. See, they in the hearing with the judge, he said some things. The lawyer said some things when he was on the stand that I was like, oh. He even told me about someone that he hunted down that knew about the video of Eric Coomer. So I know there's a video out there somewhere. I just haven't been able to find it, of him talking about and bragging about stealing elections. So we'll be a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get a little frosty. So stay tuned. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
My first time here shooting at the shooting range.
How's it going? It's also my first time and I'm really excited.
It's also my first time here, first time shooting guns.
My day off of work and they were like, hey, you want to shoot some guns? That was awesome. The revolver is crazy. I will definitely come again.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really cool experience.
100% bringing my friends here another time.
I like to come shoot because I get to spend time with my family.
Same for me. I love spending time with my family. It's something to do.
It's a lot of fun shooting.
When I first moved back into town, the first place I came was DCF Guns, and I signed up for a membership right away.
I got into shooting because of self-defense. I would encourage all women to be ready and to feel comfortable handling a handgun.
This was my first time ever shooting at DCF West. It felt amazing.
I shot an AR-15 and it was amazing. It was powerful and I loved it.
I'm here today as a part of a group of women that support one another in continuing to practice and refine our knowledge.
Not only self-protection of ourselves, but protection of our loved ones as well.
I have fun and I get to meet with other ladies.
You should always be prepared to defend yourself.
And I love coming to DCF Guns West to shoot. I come with my family. It's a nice, clean, friendly range. Here I feel safe. I feel like the people to my left and my right are also really cognizant of their range etiquette. That's why I come to DCF Guns West.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting! If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. All right. So yesterday I reached out to Roger Stone. I saw an article that came out. I saw a couple things. So let's just handle that before we get into the, we're going to call it Untamed Nation for a reason, right? So we speak truth, right? Are we going to speak truth or we're not going to speak truth? You're going to get me pre-2020. So I'm just, I used to just do what I did. And people liked it because they're like, oh, there's Joe. He's just being Joe. Then I had to calm down and not calm down. And then I liked helping people. I like playing football on Saturdays with gang members. And even people that are struggling, I like to help them because I get to choose what I do and how I help people. It was great. But I also would call a fat kid fat. And I got away with it because I was like, look, man, care about you. Stop being a fat kid. Let's go over here and get you some celery. Maybe put some peanut butter on it. And you'd go, that's kind of rude. Well, nobody ever said I was rude. Because I just told people the truth. And sometimes truth is really hard to swallow. And when I got involved in all this stuff about, COVID, it was all, these people are retarded. So I think single-handedly, I brought back the R word. You want to know what I brought back? I brought back the R word. And recognizing that people are really ugly on the inside. So even when they walk around, they smile on their face. They're trying to figure out a way that they can slit your throat. That's the whole thing about being a politician. So last night I was with my friend Gordon, and I said, I'm gonna run for office, I think. Or he said, it's a good thing you're not running for office. And I looked at him and I said, he goes, you can't run for governor. And I said, I could win. If I ran for governor of Colorado, I'd win. And he looked at me and he goes, Joe, you just couldn't, it would take too much of a toll on you going out. I just don't. And I was like, listen, we need more men to run for office who care about the people in the community. And one of the reasons why they're scared of me and they do this stupid shit that they do to, swat me and keep me from speaking and have their little fraternity that calls and says, hey, just make sure that nobody finds Joe Untamed. It's a real thing. The reason why they do it is because I want to talk about what really bothers people and what people is hurting people. So yesterday I reached out to Roger Stone. I said, hey, listen, I heard about the fat man that did some really bad stuff to you. And he sent me something that I thought was interesting. Whew. You guys are not going to like me after this. I'm just going to tell you right now. Some of you are not going to like me. I might be a self-fulfilling prophecy that I knock myself off after I get done with this. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. See if I can find it. Boop. See, Roger Stone. Roger Stone. Oh, come on. Seriously? It can't be like this. So it was yesterday. When was it yesterday? Yesterday after that, though. I did it last night. Oh, yeah. All right. I promise you're going to get super mad at me. If you were not mad at me before, you're going to be like, Joe. And here's the bad part about this. Copy this. Nobody else wants to run it. I'm going to get them on. And I'm going to have Roger come on too. This is back in 2020. Now, I saw all the stuff with Epstein and Steve Bannon. I saw it. So then there's this is, and let me just tell you something really quick that had to happen with this. Go back down a second. So I told you before, I don't care. Somebody said, Joe, you're not going to have any friends left. And I was like, I'd rather eat glass than be friends with some of these people. These aren't real people. These are grifting shitbags. The Julie Kellys of the world, the Dem donors of the world, and then you got Steve Bannon, flip-flops on Roger Stone. Roger Stone literally indicted, came into his home, tore everything up. His wife has cancer. Yeah, like I found people in this movement that I actually respect. People are like, you can't trust this person, you can't trust that person. I'm like, get the hell out of here. What do you mean I can't trust them? The only person I haven't been able to trust is the people that say I should trust them. Those are the people that frankly, they ran op after op after op. But let me just tell you about this particular story. And I already see the comments. Remember, you might want to put the comments up just so I can start there. Steve Bannon flip-flops. Okay, just run past it. I can't read it if you go past it. Oh. Never mind. I'll pick it up. Steve Bannon flip-flopped on Roger Stone WikiLeaks connection under oath. Now, this was in May of 2020. Right? It was May of 2020. This is back in 2020. Fuck Steve Bannon. I'm just going to tell you right now. Like the amount of pissed off that I am about other stuff. And somebody said, Joe, are you going to go bananas now? And I was like, yeah, I think I might. I've kept quiet about just how much grift and crap has gone on. And everybody says, oh, he's the Holy Grail. Okay. If that's the Holy Grail, then man, we don't have a second coming then. Just so you know, it's not going to happen. If that man right there, the one that hung out with Epstein and coached him on how to be a nice guy. If that guy right there is your idea, the one that it's not even my story to tell. It's not even my story to tell. Who was, talks about being tough. He's not tough. He's not tough. And if I could tell you how many times during the times with Lindell that he would call up screaming and yelling at Mike and calling him all sorts of names, man, I couldn't even, or what he did to me when I took over the thing when, what's the other little midget's name called? Brandon House. When Brandon House basically in the middle of the night turned the lights off and left, and I had to rebuild the entire system over 30 days. See, I did everything that a real man would do to protect other people. I did all of those things. This guy didn't. Oh, Joe, you want to jail for a subpoena? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So he's a tough guy. I know I'm going to get calls after this. But I saw this thing from 2020 that I never saw before. Let me read it to you. Former White House strategist Steve Bannon gave sharply contradictory accounts under oath to discussions with convicted felon Roger Stone about WikiLeaks. A review of official records by the Post shows. On January 16, 2018, roughly 5 months after he left the White House, Bannon told members of the House Intelligence Committee repeatedly that he and political operative Stone had never discussed WikiLeaks or its boss, Julian Assange, at any time during their relationship. The testimony, part of Rep. Adam Schiff's Russia investigation, was declassified and made public on May 7th. Bannon, 66, the former chairman of Breitbart News and CEO of Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, said exactly the opposite on May 8th, 2019. Oh my gosh, my text messages are messing up right now. My phone just went crazy. Oh, shit. On the question from the Department of Justice prosecutor Michael Mirando, Bannon bluntly said that Stone had in fact discussed Assange and WikiLeaks with him before Bannon took over Trump's campaign in August 2016, according to the transcript of Bannon's trial testimony. It does appear to be a glaring and irreconcilable conflict in what Bannon stated in testimony before Congress and the court. What is striking is that it was not a peripheral point, but one of the main reasons of inquiry. He had two diametrically opposite sworn statements of a high-profile controversy with dozens of attorneys in attendance. So the transcript indicates Stone's lawyers are aware of the inconsistencies between Bannon's statements in the stand and his testimony in the House Intelligence Committee that declined to press him on the conflicting testimony. I expressly directed my lawyers to raise a stunning contradiction, and to this day, it's a mystery of why they didn't, Stone said, told the Post on Friday, adding that even considered dumping his counsel and representing himself. Stone attorney Robert Bushell has questioned Bannon on the stand, declined to comment. Stone was sentenced to 40 months in prison. You want to know what commitment looks like? It's 40 months in prison. Right? It's not going there for contempt of court and spending time in jail. That's not. But I digress. The longtime Trump confidant and famed dirty trickster was convicted of 7 counts, including witness tampering and making false statements to Congress. Stone was currently free on appeal, savage Bannon over the flip-flop. I am deeply disappointed in Mr. Bannon's now documented betrayal. I believe the prosecutors suborned perjury, by Steve Bannon. I have no idea what deal he may have made for immunity on non-prosecution. He reiterated the longstanding position that he had no memory of even discussing anything regarding WikiLeaks or Assange with an old colleague. Bannon has offered extensive testimony to the House Intelligence Committee and spoke multiple times with Mueller in connection to the Russian probe. Despite his inconsistencies, he has never charged with a crime. Comparison to the Flynn prosecution is striking. The investigators did not believe that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn intentionally lied to their FBI interview. However, he was charged with false statements. William Burke, an attorney for Steve Bannon, told Post that his client may have misunderstood Schiff's questions. Steve was asked a series of disjointed, compound, and confusing questions over the course of days in statements and testimony. He was not even provided the emails in question to refresh his memory. In contrast, prosecutors asked proper questions using the relevant emails, which is how an investigation is supposed to be done. The difference lies not in his testimony, but in what you get in poor questions versus proper questions. As anyone reading the full transcript knows, Steve's testimony procured by subpoena was accurate and consistent. I do hope that over the time that I was with Mike Lindell, I was able to keep copious notes and some stuff, let's just say. So I do hope that Bannon does want to go to war with me over this stuff. I do. Because I would love to just start pouring all of it out of years of that shitbag doing exactly what he did here. And I just want to remind you that, they were going to build a wall, and that a guy that was completely blown up, and he went to prison. And you know who didn't go to prison? Bannon. Yeah, you said Steve. Yeah, Steve was pretty tan when he got out of jail. Yeah, I did see that. I just don't care anymore. You know what? I had a great conversation with my friend this morning. He says, Joe, you know what? If you're going to pick a horse, pick a horse. I picked one. I picked my horse. It was President Trump. I've remained faithful for 5 years. I've seen people do shitty things to me over those 5 years. The betrayals just rolled in, and I put up with it. I mean, you had Lynn Wood that called me and asked me to do something, and then I found out about stuff, and then Patrick Byrne, I just questioned him because we got off on the wrong foot there for a minute, and then I was like, because people get surrounded by other people that are doing things for their own deal, and they want to push people away. Patrick Byrne's one of the few people, and through all of this, that put his money where his mouth was. I put my money where my mouth was. It's the simple thing that if you're going to put something at stake, then you have my respect. Patrick Byrne did that. He continues to do that. And everybody's like, oh, he has CIA connections. Well, let me just tell you something. I don't care. I don't care if he has CIA connections. I mean, I'm interviewing CIA people, and I'm telling them right up front, I don't trust the CIA. I think they're total trash. But you got to believe that in this deal, you're going to find out real quick whether or not you're dealing with a CIA agent that's a good person or a bad person. Not going to make friends with this one. But I wasn't trying to. The difference between me and most people is that I don't give a shit about creating friendships. I want to show a loyalty to my nation. I want to show a loyalty to the fact that I got to a place where I've done fairly well. And then they just want to take it all away from me. And they want to do so with criminal acts. And then I got to just be quiet about Con Inc. I got to be quiet about certain people getting on a stage. And you're like, Joe, you just shoot at everybody. No, I don't, actually. Haven't shot at Candace Taylor. Haven't shot at Tucker Carlson. Now, we just rely on other people to do that, call them anti-Semites and everything else. And then people just get right on that bandwagon, go right after them. Oh, Joe, these people are, they're anti-Semitic. No, they're not. They're pointing out the obvious. Captain Obvious could have pointed out the obvious. Oh, my gosh, but, Tucker Carlson hung out with this person. Yeah, so I've hung out with some pretty unsavory people. I've sat in a room where I was with 7 or 8 gangbangers. Every one of them had at least one kill on their deal. Promise you. And you say, oh, you hung out with criminals. No, I went there to bring them something, that they could do something different. They didn't have to live that life. But what we have now, Julie Kelly, I mean, the Democrat donor, and then she doesn't have to explain it away, and everyone says, oh, she's a good person because she stood up for J6ers. I mean, when does it stop? When does it stop? When does this fraternity, this elitist fraternity, get thrown out the window when we start looking at things for what they are? And we want to say the free, this is freedom. I want to point out that Parler was a free platform. And before Parler, it was Gab. And you know what they did to Gab? Somebody went on there and they were making some serious progress. They were the anti-tech. And all of a sudden, they got pushed off of all the app platforms. You get off. And we said it's okay. And then Parler, they had like 10 million people that signed up on Parler in like a 3-day period of time. People were saying, we're going to abandon Facebook, get away from all these platforms, and we got a place. And you know what AWS did? We're like, yeah, see ya. Hey, we're going to kick you off. And then little companies inside of Silicon Valley did it, and they went to court, and the judge says you got no standing. They're a private company, they do whatever they want. But they did it based on political bend, and it literally ruined a company that had an amazing trajectory. And it was a great platform. And we don't do anything about it. We just had a whistleblower that was on here talking. from the CIA. And he's like, yeah, I went in a whistleblower, and then they just moved everything around and they maneuvered the things, and then they kicked me out, and then they fired me and said, you have no standing, get out. Everything that we are actually up against right now, everything we're up against right now is because of paper tigers. Every single one of them. You name it, and it's a paper tiger problem. It's someone that stood up and said, yeah, we're going to badmouth this person, badmouth this person. He's like, well, Joe, you're badmouthing Bannon. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm doing at all. What I'm saying is you're a bad guy. You've proven yourself to be that. I talk about Mike Lindell with endearment, minus the fact that he has some ethical challenges, but he does things for the right reason. He's just a little crazy, but I like that crazy. I could associate with that crazy, but the people around him, Sharona Bishop, what they did to Tina Peters, and then everybody walks around saying, Joe, you're the reason why Tina Peters is in jail. I was like, I didn't even know her. I didn't know her. But it's everyone out there that tells me who I have to get in bed with. And then when I tell the story about certain people, including Bannon, I get a phone call that says, Joe, I told you that was not your story to tell. And I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, because truth doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. And I get this thing saying, Joe, you're not going to have any friends left. They were never my friends. They were never my friends. See, my friends wouldn't sacrifice me at the foot of an altar and stand on the side of the devil. Well, how would they be my friends? I'm just tired. And now I'm back to the place where I just don't care. You want to have a conversation with me? You want to go head to head with me? You want to talk about things and try to stand up for Coomer or these other clowns? Go ahead, stand up for him. I'm going to destroy him. Just make no mistake. My only mission is to prove exactly who and what he is. I get on phone calls every day, all day. I spent 5 hours yesterday, 8 hours the day before, 24 hours over the weekend. You want to poke the bear? You poked him. I'm gonna uncover Charlie Kane. I'm gonna know everything about him. I'm gonna know everything about Brad, that little deviant. I'm gonna know everything about all of them. And then I'm just gonna publish it. And they're like, I'm coming after you. Well, you already did. You already took more that wasn't yours. And now I get to talk. Now it's my turn to talk. Nobody cares about that. Like they said, well, she did good. It's like, here's what it's like. Okay. And here's what Con Inc. has become. Like, I will talk about what President Trump does that I don't like. He's still the CEO, and I still say, as the CEO, he gets to tell me what is going to be important, what his priorities are. He's the CEO. Kardashian Patel, I don't have to have any sort of allegiance towards him. Why? Because he's fair weather. And by the way, he betrayed other people that he stepped on in order to get into his position and then turned his back on him. I don't do betrayal. Really simple. So I can draw you a line all the way down on every single person that I stay connected to. Every single person. And you know why? Because they're either a good person or they're a bad person. That's simple. And when you betray me, you're out. Like, well, I did so much for you. You didn't. You did for you. You betrayed me. Now you get out. And when you step on other people, you can't be in my circle. It's really simple. Lynn Wood couldn't be in my circle. You want to know why? Mod Trend. I pray this doesn't consume you. It's not going to consume me. My job is to speak truth to you, and I have held back my tongue in so many different ways. Shouldn't I tell you the truth? And am I guilty also of hiding some of the truth? And frankly, I don't want to sit here and pretend that it's just going to be okay. And that these people are going to lead you somewhere, because they're not. There are some good ones. I actually like Roger Stone, right? I like him a lot. I think he's a great guy. There are other people I don't dislike that I find hard time not liking that I actually like. The Big Mig guy, Lance, I like him. I actually like Pete Santilli, even though I want to punch him in the face sometimes. I think he's, Yeah, Linwood is a wackadoodle. You're right. How dare you go against the stutterer in chief, Ben? Only you, Jeff. Only you. Yeah. I will have anybody on the show. And yet, if I didn't have a show, it'd be okay. You do understand that, right? That I don't chase this. I do this because it's therapy for me, and I believe that the message that I put out there is important, and it instills fearlessness, courage into others. And just like this gives me a place to where I can just talk about things that are happening and try to make sense of geopolitical environments, I believe that does for other people as well. So I'm serving. I do not like Pete Santilli. He comes across fake. Sometimes. I don't know. Love the Big Mig. Susan, it's good to see you. Scantilli. Oh, you guys are killing me. You see what I mean? Can't have nice things. Everybody has their little camp. But let me get back to what the equivalent of it is. Look, I've made mistakes in my life. You've made mistakes in your life, right? I mean, you've done some stuff, bad stuff. And I accept people where they are, not where I want them to be. But you can't watch somebody commit rape and then be like, oh yeah, we probably shouldn't talk about that. You know, they had this whole thing that came out against Turning Point USA. You had a young lady that was basically abused by people in Turning Point USA who walked around acting like they were Boy Scouts. And that girl went through some heavy shit. And the people in Turning Point, including the leadership, all the way up to, you know it, his name, did nothing about it. They let it happen. They swept it under the rug, and they let this girl get harassed in ways that, frankly, if you did it to my daughter, I'd drag you behind the car till body parts fell off. And not one person said, I'm done. Maybe they did. Maybe there were some people that said that. But you didn't do anything about it. I mean, I give Pam Bondi a lot of grace. Knowing what I know about the AUSA and other stuff that I know about cases that should go that haven't gone, I question who the AUSAs are and their connections. And when they're married to Supreme Court justices, and you're like, what? State Supreme Court justice, and you're going, well, that checks. So that's why this isn't going forward. And there's a reason why whistleblowers and people come to me and say, Joe, can't say anything. Please don't say anything about who I am, but here's what's happening. And then I'm like, okay. But you have to make a decision on what's important. And frankly, you don't have to like everything that I say. And you don't have to like that I cuss sometimes. And you don't have to like the fact that I don't like certain people that you like. And you like them. God bless you. Go ahead, like them. But 5 years. 5 years, I've been the same. I have been identical throughout this entire deal. Go back and watch me in 2019, 2020, when I was Joe Otto. Go watch that. Then come back and talk to me and say, are you any different? Because I'm not. But I want to break down certain things, and I want to dig in. I think it's good that we dig in. So let's dig in before I dig in. I ran an entire analysis of Eric Coomer's dissertation. An entire analysis. Fully. It was a full analysis. And in this analysis, I asked simple questions and I uploaded information into it. So we're going to launch this. There's really no platform to put this out for, so I got to try to figure out, how do I combine this in a place where I can give you a whiteboard so that you can prove it? And I uploaded things like the Mesa report that were done by, Mark Cook contributed to it. You had Jeff O'Donnell contributed to it. You had a bunch of people contributed to that. Sean Smith. So I looked at these reports and I took that information. I said, okay, if that's true. And then you have stuff that came in from Garland Favorito, the work that he's done down in Georgia. And you had the information that came out of Nevada. So you have, Ed Solomon. You had all these different people. You have Draza Smith. I love Draza. She's brilliant. You have all of these really good people, right? Notice that there are people that I will talk endearingly about no matter what. Sean Smith, guy is an absolute Boy Scout. So I go through and I grab all this information. He's in Michigan, Matt DePerno. I actually really like Matt DePerno. I don't really care what anybody says. I like Matt DePerno. He was one of the first there. Stephanie Lambert. I love Stephanie Lambert. I love Patrick Byrne. Patrick Byrne and I have had a there for a minute, right? I mean, Mike Flynn. I don't any idea about Mike Flynn. I can tell you this. Personally, I don't have any ill will towards Mike Flynn. Joe, his brother, is a saint. The guy's amazing. Joe Flynn is an amazing guy, right? Mike Flynn saying he wouldn't even recognize me if he walked into a room with me. I think that was a lie, but whatever. So these are really good people, right? So I take all that information, I feed it into a system. Now there's 3 layers to that system. The first layer is you feed it you feed it what you're asking it to look at. So here's the dissertation for Eric Coomer. Here's the history of Eric Coomer going back to 2000. And I went back to 2000, period, end stop. And I said, I want you to look at these correlative events that happened. And then in 2005, 2004, he went through a messy divorce with his wife, and the reasons for that. I put all this stuff in the system. And then I go through, his own words, take his own words, use them against him a little bit. And then the timeline of when he started working for the election systems. Okay. Then you feed in the data to the 2020 and 2022 election, including what happened with Carrie Lake. Another person I really like, wish she had a little bit more courage. I don't actually know why she came out against the guy from the Republican Party that ran it and that didn't go anywhere. I don't really understand that. It should have gone somewhere. Regardless, you have Abe as well that ran for office. They stole that election. So I took all that information and I take the cast vote records of what I can actually get a hold of. So I'm telling you what process I went through. And then I feed that all in document by document, but you build on it, because if you feed too much information, it'll skip over a ton of it. And then you start to add emphasis to, hey, look into the Mesa County Report 3. Oh, by the way, there's a 4th report. I didn't implement that in yet because, frankly, I'm trying to keep it back on a timeline. I put the stuff in for Tina Peters, what she was charged with, and the circumstances around how she was charged. I even took 2 reports of investigators that worked at the AG's office for Phil Weiser. I fed those in because they were relevant to talking to a guy named Matt Crane. Now, the original questions that I ask are really simple. Those questions are, if giving all of this stuff, and I want to talk about, because Eric Coomer, they said, oh, he just started in 2010. That's not true. Eric Coomer was a chief architect in 2005 and in March of 2005, Smartmatic bought Sequoia Voting Systems, right? Bought that system and immediately installed this guy called Eric Coomer. He was a chief architect. Now, you have to know more about Eric Coomer and the fact that he basically was a web dev coder he did websites. So he went from doing websites to going to work for Sequoia Voting Systems. That's that, right? Oh, I forgot about this. Fresh on the heels of being a drug addict, dry heaving on the ground, he gets a cold call in the middle of that after he was clean. Totally not true. It's not how it happened, right? And people familiar with the situation say it's not how it happened. The good thing about Eric Coomer is he loses friends faster than I change underwear. Fast forward, put all this information in, and then you say probabilities. Give me a value. If this man was a chief architect going back to 2005, which, by the way, was a year after, super important, it was a year after Clinton Curtis testified in Congress. Actually, it wasn't even a year later. It was 7 months later. Testified that he was asked to build a system in Florida by a Florida congressman that you could not that would not be detectable in an election. You could basically steal elections, change votes, and no one would know. Clinton Curtis did that in 2004, October of 2004. Now, if you want to go back and look at some of the other election systems and his connections to the company that was in Florida that he worked with, guess where Smartmatic actually operated? Florida. Delaware Corporation operated out of Florida. Everything that Nexus is in Florida. All of it. Every bit of it. It's all Florida. Venezuelans, Florida. And the company, the initial investment and the CFIUS, which is the committee that looks into foreign investments and whether or not it was going to be a security issue, they have incredible amounts of leeway. It said, after some massive events, guess who was there? Coomer. So anyway, I fed all this in there. I fed in the foreign information, stuff that I got from people in Mongolia, people that I got from, and the same name keeps coming up everywhere. His name is Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer comes up everywhere. So I'm thinking to myself as I keep going through and gathering more information. And then in 2006, I put in there, I was able to gather some articles and documents and things that that the web had gotten rid of, but were in the archives. And then I had to bookmark them and download them and do all this stuff to make sure that even when I disclose it, because I am disclosing it, that somebody didn't go through and do what they did in 2020 and just delete all of it. Because that's what they did in 2020. So I asked 3 AI platforms and then one derivative platform that I use just to tell me, after I get that information, whether or not one of them is off. And I did 3 so that 3 could tell me what the probability of it being positive is. So I did all that. And then I started looking at some characteristics of Dominion's system versus ES&S versus Smartmatic and whether or not they use systems and were they ever connected before they came apart. And the answer is yes, they were. And so then the design features of whether or not it has to all go up to Seidel, they do. And from Seidel, does it go to Edison? Yes, it does. And is there a way that inside of Seidel they could actually manipulate that as well? Yes, they can. So I didn't just look at Dominion and feed this information. I fed it all the way up. But the only single way that you would be able to do the things that they did, the only way, is if you had someone that understood complex algos. If you don't understand complex algorithms, you're out. So I believe the CIA came in and hunted him down. I believe that maybe his father or brother or both or someone else in the family was deeply connected to somebody, because they are very well, it's a family affair. Very, very well established in that environment. And they went and said, okay, we're gonna get Coomer a job. CIA is like, this is our guy. He's desperate. Can't really do anything else. He's a drug addict. This is a big opportunity for him. Chief architect. So the R factor, right? The R value, regression value for the information that I fed in there of whether or not Eric Coomer, as a chief architect, the guy that originally built the original system, the original algorithms of how things were built, the genesis of that traces back to none other than Eric Coomer. 2005. Smartmatic. Sequoia voting systems. Forced to sell because of inappropriate and largely unethical behavior. Now that happened over and over again. 2006 in Chicago, 2008, 2010 when they were sold to Dominion, which by the way they were sold to Dominion, they didn't have any real history of doing elections either. The fact that Soros was on the same floor, that's almost a non-issue. It's just, it shows the close connection into the elections in Mongolia in 2012, the Philippines, Indonesia. Indonesia is a little bit more up in the air as far as the connections to it. They're a little more hush-hush. Ukraine, Serbia, the office built there. all the other stuff, everywhere you turn and there was a problem, guess who was right in the middle of it? Yep, Eric Coomer. Everywhere. He went state to state selling. He went state to state negotiating. He would meet with county clerks and recorders in Colorado and wine and dine and do all those things. Everywhere that you could have an influence of this guy, he was the guy. Not John Polis. The guy was Eric Coomer, which would make sense of why he would sue everyone else, why we'd have the ability to get media to do the things that they did, and how you could get judges to kind of teeter things. The systems are rotted, so we know that happened. The R value, let's get back to it. So the R squared value for cast vote records being fed into it, Eric Coomer, his dissertation, everything else, putting it all together, 0.99, 0.998. And I kept an adequate record all the way down, every conversation, what I fed into it, made sure it was scientific. And you would say, Joe, that's just mathematics. That does not prove that you have a smoking gun. Oh, no. So the smoking gun would come in the form of whistleblowers. In 2006, there was about 25 Venezuelan nationals that were brought into the country. The then CEO of Sequoia Voting Systems did get on the stand and say, yeah, that we had a bunch of people who flew in from Venezuela that were a part of Smartmatic, that was part of, yes, the Venezuelan company. And they did a really good job of creating all these different shell corporations and moving up to Delaware and then making sure they were incorporated down in Florida and doing all this stuff, right? But 3 of the whistleblowers that went to Chicago became 3 of the people that went to Chicago became whistleblowers. One died in 2022. He was killed, murdered. Still a couple out there. Now, I found out about this and a few others that I thought was a little bit strange. Like, why has nobody seen these people? Why has nobody ever seen their affidavits? And so I started making phone calls and they're like, yeah, that checks, Joe. You actually know stuff. How did you find out? And I was like, well, I just kept digging. It all comes back to this one guy, Eric Coomer. And I kept telling my lawyers that I got to talk about this. And I would see him in the courtrooms and stuff and his smug little look. And I'm like, how in the world is this guy not in jail? And how am I being defamed everywhere? You have an R squared value of 0.998, another one of 0.99, another one of 0.994, 6. That means 100% of it is, yes, this is how they did it. Now, I did ask it questions about mail-in ballots and whether or not that would be something they would use as fuel to the fire. And they said, yep. And then his connection to his patents, which he has 15 patents, some are restated. And I've read every one of those patents, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of those as well. See, when I get on the stand in April of next year, I'm going to have super fun. Because I think that I have developed a working knowledge of not only Dominion, but how they stole elections in different states, from Washington State to Oregon. And I'm getting information sent to me from those different states. And they're like, yeah, it happened here. Now, the whole time that this has been going on, I've been demonetized, defamed, slandered, shut down. 0.998, 0.99, 0.996, or 4. And we start looking at deviations, there aren't any. Tina Peters is still in jail. President Trump said, get her out. The Attorney General of Colorado, Phil Weiser, was in cahoots with the FBI SAC, who liked the post of him talking about and bragging about the fact that they, in the AG's office, worked in conjunction with Dan Rubenstein up in there, and probably the Judge Barrett, in putting Tina Peters in jail for 9.5 years. I feel like I have put a case together, and then as I'm going through this process, that should send these people to prison for the rest of their lives. And in the middle of it, I get told about a case, or at least an allegation, where nearly tens of millions of dollars was used in bribes at the highest level in Colorado. And you would go, and by the way, this isn't conjecture. This is people that are afraid to come forward, and one that is like, oh yeah, well, I can't say anything right now. I'm not allowed. And people that are married to each other, and it is organized crime. So it doesn't surprise me what Pedro said. What surprises me is that I started this with, we got these paper tigers and we got this Con Inc. deal. And I've been defamed by pretty much everyone, even people that are on our side that I've called out for being fake actors like Javon Pulitzer and others. And sometimes I just lose my cool with people like Santilli. And you can like them or not like them. Can I get up the comments? You can like or not like Pete Santilli. But my issue with him was just based on, I was just, what? You're joking, right? I can't ever get one thing to go right on the program. This is unbelievable. You're saying Rumble kicked us out? What do you mean it had been disabled? So who else has access to Rumble Studio? Okay. All right, I'm done for the day. I'm done for the day. I want you to cut out people's access to the back end, rewrite the entire thing if you have to, and make sure no one else can get access to it. There are 2 logins, one for Untamed and one for Conservative Daily. And then I'll have a talk with Chris about access and who did get access to it. All right. Well, there you go. I'm not anybody's friend or anybody. They're not my friend, which is fine. It makes it easier for me to go after people for who they are. Guys that I would follow that I think are really good guys, obviously the people that are the FBI whistleblowers, Kyle Seraphin, super good guy. Steve Friend, great guy. Garrett O'Boyle, absolutely great. But I'm going to push out this report tonight, so you'll have this report. It kind of gives you a kind of a peek into Eric Coomer specifically. And we'll run this as a rerun. So even the fact that they took it down, that'll stand. As soon as this is done, we'll load it back up, put it back out there, and we'll start the feed probably in the next hour or so. Are you serious? Can people hear what you just said to me? Go on and tell people what you just said to me.
All right, so looking at Twitter, we have a few guests that hopped on to Twitter since Rumble kept kicking them. One guest says, Rumble's acting weird today for your show. It kept kicking us off.
Yeah, there you go. I see it now. I'm kicking the bee's nest. There you go. Kick the bee's nest, and they get to take shots at you. They're all in it together. And if the guy at the head of the deal is tied to an organization that is tied to private equity, and that private equity is then tied to things like BlackRock and other stuff, then I can't even imagine what kind of information I'm going to get out of these subpoenas and requests from Twitter and everything else. It was November 12th, I was kicked off of Twitter. They said that I was using multiple accounts, but I wasn't. We're back. Watching on YouTube, chatting here after the crash. Chat disappeared. Check the comments on YouTube, Joe. Okay, let me go over there. YouTube. Hopefully I don't get kicked off there. There we go. Comments there. Oh. Okay. There's people watching on now. All right. So I just want to say this. I just gave you a lot, kind of a crap sandwich. Somebody asked what Dave Clements is doing. He is working harder now than I think he's ever worked before. He is behind the scenes working on legal stuff that I think is going to bear fruit. There is some truth that you don't know what's really going on and how the sausage is being built. And I think President Trump has done some great things, and there's a group of people that I think are going to move mountains. One of the reasons why I'm building this model is so I can pass it over and it can be verified, peer review. It's always good to have peer review. And if you use large language models that allow for you to have mathematical dictation, they push it out across different states. That I think is what President Trump needs in order to say, okay, you're a criminal. You did criminal stuff. And oh, by the way, you tried to take $90,000 from Joe Altman while you were committing a crime because you wanted to suppress you basically are witness tampering. That's in essence what they are. It's witness tampering. I'm a witness. I'm going to be now hopefully found as a witness. We're working on that now. But yeah. So Celia says she got X has nuked 3 of my accounts in the last 12 months due to verification issues. I will tell you, X has been really good to me, kind of, but none of them are good to me because there's always people that are in there that somebody calls somebody else saying, I know this person. And then they basically just cut you off. They turn you down. Pretty easy to do. It's not that hard. And there's not a whole lot of platforms because the good ones like Parler are gone. Totally gone. All right. So you're the ambassadors of truth. You want to know somebody asked me what I want. I want you to take the link and share it. That's what I want. I want you to amplify it to break the back of those people that don't want to amplify it. We ran the show over and over again on reruns. And I think it was in one case, almost 12,000 people on one channel on Rumble and some 30,000 total, 40,000 total extra people from rerunning it on a live deal. And you'd say, well, why'd you do it? It's because I already know that they're stopping me. So why is it the same number of people show up on all the streams across the board? I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and say that this, with God, everything is possible. Without God, nothing is possible. And, we're going to speak the truth, period. Sorry. It is what it is. I want to thank Pedro for coming on. We have a great guest coming up tomorrow. The information you get on this report that I'm putting out tonight, it'll be an article. I think I probably should do something and put it into a, what's it called? What's that thing called? Where you write an article? I think we have an account. Do we have an account? Substack. Yeah. Yeah, I talk about the stolen movie revenue. So let me say that real quick. Mike was grifted too, but he just used other people's money to complete the grift. OPMs. Cannonball says, Joe, you are the same dude that I started watching over 5 years ago, and I'm proud to call you my brother. I am your brother. Thank you. I'm going to tell you that it's going to get a little bit more, it's going to get a little more jagged because I'm just going to start spewing it. We're going to look at policy changes, things that are done. We're going to, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. So you want to do something that doesn't cost you anything, you can push the message. That's what you can do. You can break the back of the devil. How about that? All right, let's pray. Father God, I am so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the voice that you've given me, the courage you've given me, and I'm grateful for the mind that you've given me. I'm also grateful for the mind you've given so many others, and for the gifts and for the pathways you put them on. I'm grateful for President Trump. I'm grateful for President Trump in a lot of ways, but mostly because he has been an example of how you should stand up, say something, see something, walk a path that frankly is going to be jagged and filled with persecution, but that ultimately you can come out the other end. It's a example of hope, Father, and of your grace towards us. Father, I'm grateful for I'm grateful for the people that are in leadership that are doing right by the American people. And for those that stand up and speak on a podcast or however they speak, that have done amazing things in their communities and in the country, even the ones that many times go unseen. Father, I ask you to bless us with the ability to have courage, but also have humility. And to make sure, Father, that we're doing this for the right reason. I'm grateful, Father, for this time. And I just ask you to give those people that are listening the comfort and the discernment so that they can see right from wrong, left from right. And as we get further down this path of talking about what it is that we need to do, what are the next action steps, what are the next things you want us to do, that we can prepare ourselves both mentally, physically, and otherwise to be able to stand next to our brothers and sisters. I say these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Damn, why do I weep when praying for Joe Untamed? There's a principality coming against him. Pray it off, y'all. In the name of Jesus Christ, pray it off. Yeah, people don't like me. It's good to see you back, Cannonball. I haven't seen you in a bit. It's really good to see you back. Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Can we have a fun day Friday? Hey, Patrick, I need a fun day Friday. We need to have some fun stuff. So, guys, send me some stuff that'll make me laugh that I can make you laugh with. Even if it ridicules people just a little bit, we got to do it. So, other than that, God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Remember, hit the up button on your way out. Make sure that you share it. Take an extra couple minutes to do that if you would before you leave us. And just remember that I love you. Jesus loves you. God loves you. And and your family loves you. See you soon.